The Silent Stars. Commander Zora Vex stood at the observation deck of the Meridian Alliance's flagship, her iridescent scales dulled by exhaustion. The massive view screen before her showed another system going dark, the third this cycle, where once had been the vibrant light of a G-class star surrounded by thriving worlds. Now only darkness remained, consumed by the voracious entities they had come to call void parasites. Commander. The voice belonged to her research partner, Keelta, whose crystalline form sparkled under the deck's soft lighting. The Council requests your presence. They've received your report. Zara's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of stress in her species. The report had been her last hope, the culmination of 3 years studying the parasite's movement patterns. What she'd discovered had seemed impossible at first, but the data was undeniable. The void parasites, for all their devastating power, showed clear avoidance patterns around certain regions of space. The council chamber hummed with nervous energy as Zara entered. 12 representatives from the Alliance's founding species sat in a perfect circle, their environmental fields creating a shimmering barrier between each section. First speaker Nimva, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient mechanical shell, beckoned her forward. Commander Vex, your findings are disturbing. Nimva's voice resonated through the chamber. You suggest we seek help from a non-alliance world. Not just any world. First speaker. Zara activated the chamber's holographic display. A small blue-green planet appeared, rotating slowly. This is Earth, a death world. The chamber erupted in horrified whispers. Deathworlds were planets so hostile that most spacefaring species considered them uninhabitable, crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, aggressive flora and fauna, and toxic atmospheres. That anything could evolve there, let alone achieve spaceflight, seemed to defy natural law. The inhabitants call themselves humans, Zora continued, her voice steady despite the mounting tension. They've achieved faster than light travel within the last century, but have remained isolated due to their world's classification. More importantly, they've developed technologies specifically designed to survive and thrive in conditions that would kill most species in the Alliance. The hologram shifted, showing human cities spanning from Arctic tundra to burning deserts. They call their world's oceans gentle despite pressure levels that would crush most of our submarines. They consider their gravity comfortable, though it would snap our bones. They breathe oxygen, pure oxygen mixed with nitrogen, as if it weren't a corrosive gas. And you believe these savages could help us? Council member Vreen's gelatinous form rippled with skepticism. What could they possibly know about fighting void parasites? Zara brought up her most compelling evidence, a map of parasite movements across Alliance space. Red markers showed consumed systems, while blue indicated their predicted path. But there were gaps, systems the parasites had deliberately avoided. Every avoided system contains what we would classify as a death world. The parasites, for all their adaptability, seem unable or unwilling to approach these hostile environments. Humans don't just survive in such conditions, they master them. They've developed technologies specifically designed to control and weaponize environmental extremes. First speaker Nimva's mechanical form leaned forward. You're suggesting we use death world conditions against the parasites. The casualties would be enormous. The casualties are already enormous, Zara countered. We've lost 37 systems, billions of lives. Our conventional weapons are useless. The parasites adapt to everything we try. We need a species that understands adaptation at its core, that evolved alongside predators and competitors in an environment that never stopped trying to kill them. Council member Lathnar, whose silicon-based form resembled a living crystal, raised an appendage. I've studied Earth's public broadcasts. They spend an inordinate amount of time fighting each other. How can we trust such violent beings? Because they fight for causes beyond themselves. Zara brought up footage from Earth's historical archives. They risked their lives to save others. They'd venture into burning buildings, dive into toxic waters, Brave lethal radiation, not for profit or power, but because they believe in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The chamber fell silent as the council absorbed this information. Zara felt her scales prickling with anticipation. Everything hinged on this moment. There's something else, she added quietly. The void parasites aren't just avoiding Deathworld systems. They're accelerating around them, as if fleeing. Something about these worlds terrifies them. I believe the humans might know why. First speaker Nimva's mechanical shell hummed as it processed this information. The risk is enormous. If we invite these Deathworlders into Alliance space, and they prove hostile, then we die fighting, Zara said firmly, instead of dying as we hide. But I don't believe that will happen. I've studied them extensively. Humans are violent, yes, but they channel that violence into protection more often than conquest. They're driven to explore, to solve problems, to defend others. We need those qualities now more than ever. The council chambers erupted in debate. Arguments flew back and forth. The dangers of trusting Deathworlders against the certainty of extinction if they did nothing. Zara waited, her scales shifting colors with anxiety, until finally first speaker Nimva raised all four appendages for silence. We will vote, the first speaker announced. Should we contact Earth and request their aid against the void parasites? Zara held her breath as the votes were cast. One by one, the council members made their choice. When the final tally appeared in the center of the chamber, she felt her heart skip a beat. The vote was 8-4 in favor. Commander Vex, first speaker Nimva's voice carried the weight of history. You will lead the diplomatic mission to Earth. Choose your team carefully. The future of the Alliance now rests on your ability to convince these Deathworlders to fight for people they've never met, against an enemy they've never seen. As Zara left the chamber, Keelta fell into step beside her. They agreed. Her partner sounded amazed. They actually agreed to contact Deathworlders. They agreed because they're terrified. Zara replied, watching another system status alert flash red on her neural interface. But fear makes us blind. The real challenge won't be convincing the humans to help us. Oh, it will be convincing the Alliance to accept that help when they see exactly what humans are capable of. Zora's scales shifted to deep blue, the color of determination in her species, because I've studied Earth's history extensively, and I suspect their solution to our problem will terrify the Council more than the void parasites do. As if to punctuate her words, another alert flashed. Another system gone dark. Time was running out. Somewhere on that blue-green Deathworld, Zara hoped, was the key to their survival. She just had to convince its inhabitants to share it. Children of the Storm. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in Earth's Orbital Defense Command Center, watching the alien transmission for the third time. The holographic figure of Commander Zora Vex flickered slightly as it described the void parasites consuming entire star systems. Around the conference table, Earth's hastily assembled response team sat in thoughtful silence. They're desperate, Major Marcus Rodriguez said, his weathered face creased in concentration. The veteran of Earth's Environmental Defense Force had spent 20 years fighting everything from super hurricanes to volcanic chain reactions. These Alliance species never had to evolve past their comfortable environments. They don't understand adaptation. Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through possibilities. The footage of these void parasites reminds me of extremophile behaviors. Look at the consumption patterns. She gestured, and a holographic display shifted to show time-lapse footage of a system being consumed. They're following energy gradients, just like bacteria in hydrothermal vents. Except these vents are stars, Dr. James Kumar added, adjusting his glasses. The quantum physicist had been pulled from his research on environmental manipulation technology. And they're not just feeding, they're transforming the entire system's energy state. The room's fourth occupant, Captain Maya Patil of the advanced research vessel Prometheus, leaned forward. The Alliance thinks we're savages who might help them out of desperation. But they're missing something crucial about these parasites, aren't they, Dr. Chen? Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The parasites are afraid of Deathworlds. That's not just interesting, it's revelatory. Whatever these entities are, they evolved in the gentle parts of space. They've never had to compete with anything that fights back. And competition is everything, Rodriguez said quietly. Earth taught us that the hard way. The room fell silent again as they considered their homeworld's harsh lessons. Humanity had emerged from a planet that never stopped trying to kill them, where every advancement came with a price in blood and sacrifice. They'd survived ice ages and asteroid impacts, evolved alongside predators that sharpened their minds and bodies, and learned to thrive in conditions that the Alliance species could barely comprehend. I have an idea, Sarah said finally, but the Alliance isn't going to like it. 3 days later, the Prometheus dropped out of FTL near the Meridian Alliance's Central Command Station. Sarah watched through the bridge viewport as their ship, designed to operate in everything from deep ocean pressures to volcanic atmospheres, approached the delicate-looking alien structure. They're hailing us, Captain Puttle reported. And yes, their environmental seals are having fits about our atmosphere. Apparently, we're bringing a corrosive death cloud into their docking bay. You mean air? Rodriguez chuckled. Wait until they see what we brought in the cargo hold. The docking procedure took 3 times longer than necessary as the Alliance engineers struggled to adapt their systems to handle a human-compatible environment. Finally, the airlock cycled, and the Earth team stepped onto the station. Commander Zara Vex was waiting for them, her iridescent scales shifting through patterns that Sarah's xenobiology training identified as anxiety mixed with hope. Beside her stood various Alliance representatives, each in their own environmental field. "Welcome to Alliance space," Zara said, her translator rendering her complex harmonics into clear English. "We are grateful for your—" She trailed off as Rodriguez casually lifted a heavy equipment case that would have required mechanical assistance for most Alliance species. The assembled aliens took an unconscious step back. "Thank you for having us." Sarah stepped forward, trying to put their hosts at ease. "We've reviewed your data on the void parasites, and we believe we have a solution. Though I should warn you, it's going to require some radical thinking." The briefing room was designed to accommodate dozens of species, with various atmospheric bubbles and gravity settings. The Earth team sat comfortably in what the Alliance considered crushing gravity, breathing their corrosive atmosphere, while they explained their plan. "The parasites are energy-seeking extremophiles," Sarah explained, bringing up their analysis. "But they're specialized for stable environments. Look at their behavior around Deathworlds." The display showed the entities practically fleeing from systems with harsh conditions. They can't handle rapid environmental changes. Which means, Rodriguez continued, we can fight them the same way Earth taught us to fight wildfires, with backburns and controlled chaos. Dr. Kumar activated a simulation showing modified terraforming technology. "We've adapted our environmental manipulation systems to create what we call shock zones, areas of rapidly shifting conditions that mimic the most extreme environments found on Earth and other Deathworlds." The Alliance representatives watched in horror as the simulation showed stellar energy patterns being disrupted, gravitational fields twisted, and radiation levels fluctuating wildly. "This would make entire systems uninhabitable," one of them protested. "Temporarily," Sarah acknowledged, "but we can control and direct the changes." The void parasites would be forced to either retreat or adapt. And adaptation takes time. Time they won't have as we keep changing the conditions. "You want to weaponize environmental devastation." Zara's scales had shifted to a deep purple. "Shock," Sarah's xenobiology training supplied. "Even if it works, the damage to our worlds will be less than what the parasites are doing," Rodriguez said firmly. "Sometimes survival means making hard choices. Earth taught us that too." Captain Patul brought up footage from Earth's Environmental Defense Archives. "We've been fighting our own world's extremes for centuries. redirecting hurricanes, containing volcanic eruptions, seeding clouds to control weather patterns. We learned to master chaos because we had to. Now we can teach you. The room erupted in argument as Alliance representatives debated the ethics and risks of the human proposal. Sarah watched them, understanding their fear. The Alliance had evolved in gentler worlds, building a civilization based on stability and predictability. What she was suggesting went against everything they believed about maintaining cosmic harmony. Commander Vex, Sarah addressed Zara directly. You sought help from Deathworlders because you knew we'd see things differently. Well, this is how we see it. The void parasites are predators, and they've never faced real competition. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten someone who evolved fighting back. Zara's scales shifted through several colors before settling on the deep blue of determination. The Council will have to be convinced. This plan, it goes against all our protocols. With respect, Commander, Rodriguez said, his voice gentle but firm, your protocols were made for a universe without void parasites. Sometimes survival means breaking your own rules. Sarah stood, addressing the entire room. We understand your fears. Humanity's solutions often seem extreme because we come from an extreme world. But we're not just offering to fight for you. We're offering to teach you how to fight for yourselves. The choice is yours. As the Alliance representatives filed out to consult with their superiors, Sarah caught Zora lingering behind. The alien commander's scales had taken on a new pattern she couldn't identify. Dr. Chen, Zora said quietly, when I suggested seeking help from Earth, many thought I was dooming us to a different kind of destruction. But watching you explain your plan, I realized something. The Council sees you as dangerous because you survive in harsh conditions. They don't understand that surviving harshness has taught you the value of protecting others. Sarah smiled. On Earth, we have a saying, the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fires. Maybe it's time for the Alliance to learn what that really means. Thunder in the void. The Prometheus hung in space at the edge of the Centauri sector, its modified environmental generators humming with barely contained power. On the bridge, Captain Maya Patel watched the final preparations through windows designed to withstand pressures that would crush most Alliance ships. Environmental shockwave generators at 90%. Dr. Kumar reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Gravitational distortion field stable. We're ready to create our first artificial Deathworld conditions. Sarah Chen studied the sensor readings of the approaching void parasites. The crystalline entities had already consumed 2 systems in this sector, their fractally expanding forms distorting space itself as they fed. They're following the exact pattern we predicted, moving from highest energy concentrations to lowest. Like a forest fire following the fuel, Rodriguez said, checking the weapon systems he'd helped modify. Time to show them what a backburn feels like. Commander Zara Vex stood slightly apart from the humans, her scales shifting between anxiety and fascination. The Alliance Council had approved their plan by the narrowest margin in its history, but seeing the humans prepare to deliberately create hostile environments still triggered deep instincts of wrongness. Beginning primary sequence, Kumar announced. Environmental shockwave in 3, 2, 1. The Prometheus's generators activated, sending waves of controlled chaos rippling through space. Temperature differentials that would shatter most materials oscillated in carefully calculated patterns. Radiation levels spiked and dropped in rapid succession. Gravitational fields twisted in ways that made Zora's inner organs clench. Parasites responding. Sarah reported, excitement creeping into her voice. They're slowing their advance, energy consumption patterns becoming erratic. On the main view screen, the crystalline forms of the void parasites seemed to shudder. Their usually geometric patterns began to fragment as they encountered conditions they'd never evolved to handle. They're trying to adapt, Rodriguez observed, but they can't keep up with the rate of change. Kumar, start the second phase. The quantum physicist nodded, initiating another sequence. The environmental chaos intensified, now mimicking conditions found in Earth's most extreme environments. Superpressured zones like deep ocean trenches formed alongside areas of near vacuum. Temperature differentials expanded to match the shift from magma chamber to Arctic ice. By the first light, Zara whispered, her scales pale with shock. You live with such conditions on your world. Not all at once, Sarah smiled grimly. But we learned to survive them all. More importantly, we learned to control them. The void parasites were definitely retreating now, their crystalline forms contracting as they encountered environment after environment that threatened their existence. But something was wrong. Sarah frowned at her readings. Energy spike in the trailing elements, she warned. They're not just retreating. The parasites suddenly accelerated, but not away from the artificial Deathworld conditions. Instead, they shot straight toward the Prometheus. Evasive maneuvers, Patil ordered, but the ship was already moving. The captain had spent years navigating through hurricanes and volcanic eruptions. Her reflexes were honed for exactly this kind of chaos. They're adapting faster than predicted, Kumar reported, his fingers flying over controls. Learning from each environmental shift. Rodriguez was already moving to the weapons station. They want to eliminate the source of the threat, just like an Earth predator would. Kumar, can you create a corridor? The physicist nodded, understanding immediately. His modifications shifted, creating a tunnel of relatively stable space through the chaos, a path that led away from both the ship and the vulnerable Alliance systems. They're following it, Sarah reported. The parasites are moving along the corridor of least resistance, just like fire following a firebreak. The crystalline entities flowed through the stable corridor, their geometric patterns slowly reforming as they escaped the artificial Deathworld conditions. But now they were moving in a direction the humans had chosen, away from populated systems. It worked. Zara's scales had shifted to colors Sarah had never seen before. You actually drove them back. Partially, Sarah cautioned. They're learning, adapting. Next time, they'll be better prepared for environmental shifts. Then we'll have to be better too, Rodriguez said firmly. This was just the first test. Now we know they can think tactically. They tried to eliminate the threat rather than just flee it. That means they're not just mindless consumers, which makes them more dangerous, Patil added, finally relaxing slightly in her captain's chair, but also more predictable. We can use their intelligence against them. Kumar was already analyzing the data. We'll need to modify the environmental generators, create more complex patterns, layer the effects, make it impossible for them to adapt to any one condition before hitting them with another. Like Earth's seasons, Sarah mused. Constant change, but with underlying patterns we can control. Zara moved closer to the sensor displays, her scientific curiosity overcoming her instinctive fear of the artificial chaos they'd created. The energy readings from the parasites. During the retreat, they showed signs of internal disruption, as if different parts were trying to adapt in different ways. Division in the ranks, Rodriguez nodded. Another weakness we can exploit. On Earth, invasive species often fail because they can't adapt to multiple environmental pressures at once. We'll need more ships, Patil said, already planning the next phase. The Prometheus can't create large enough effect zones to protect multiple sectors. The Alliance shipyards are ready, Zara reported. Though our engineers are still struggling to understand some of your modifications, the concepts behind weaponizing environmental change, they go against everything we were taught about maintaining cosmic harmony. Sarah placed a gentle hand on the alien commander's shoulder, careful of the pressure. Sometimes maintaining harmony means creating controlled discord. Earth's ecosystems taught us that. A forest needs fires to stay healthy. Oceans need storms to maintain their chemical balance. The galaxy might need a little chaos to survive these parasites. The next attack will be harder, Rodriguez warned. They'll remember this encounter, probably try to find ways around our environmental barriers. Good, Patil's smile was fierce. Let them learn. Let them adapt. Every time they do, we'll learn more about them. And unlike them, we've had billions of years of evolution teaching us how to thrive in hostile conditions. Zara watched the humans begin planning their next operation, her scales shifting through patterns of wonder and concern. She had sought their help believing their savage world had made them strong enough to fight the void parasites. Now she understood that Earth's true gift to its children wasn't just strength. It was the wisdom to know that survival sometimes meant embracing the very chaos that threatened to destroy you. As the Prometheus set course for their next target, the void parasites retreated through the artificial corridor of stable space, unaware that they were being herded into a trap. The humans had learned long ago that the most effective way to fight a wildfire wasn't to confront it directly. It was to control its path, shape its behavior, and ultimately turn its own nature against it. The battle for the galaxy had truly begun, and humanity was ready to teach both their allies and their enemies what it meant to be children of a death world. The price of salvation. Environmental containment failing on decks 3 through 7. The warning echoed through the Prometheus's command center as the ship shuddered under another assault from the void parasites. Captain Patel's hands flew across the controls, compensating for systems that were being consumed by crystalline growths that had somehow breached their defenses. "They've adapted to our basic patterns," Sarah Chen reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "The parasites are using our own environmental corridors to bypass the shock zones." "Clever bastards," Rodriguez muttered, working to redirect power to the failing containment fields. They learned from every encounter, just like Earth predators would. The viewing screen showed the devastating scene outside. A dozen Alliance ships, modified with human environmental technology, maintained a defensive line around the Arcturus colony. Behind them, evacuation ships streamed toward safety, carrying millions of refugees. "Kumar," Patel called out, "we need those new configurations now." The physicist was hunched over his station, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "The calculations aren't complete. If I get this wrong, we could tear a hole in space-time itself." "Better that than letting them take another system," Rodriguez responded. "Sometimes you have to roll the hard 6. Commander Zara Vex moved between stations, her scales now permanently set to emergency response patterns. The past month had seen the Alliance transformed. Species that once feared environmental extremes now worked alongside humans, learning to manipulate the very forces they had evolved to avoid. "Incoming transmission from the Heritage," Zara reported. "Admiral Kieltar reports their containment fields are at critical levels. They can't hold the line much longer." Sarah studied the sensor readings, her mind racing. The parasites aren't just adapting anymore. They're combining strategies, using what they learned from each encounter. She pointed to energy patterns that pulsed through the crystalline forms. "Look, they're creating their own stable zones inside our chaos fields." Then we changed the game. Rodriguez straightened, his expression grim. "Kumar, forget the safety margins. Give me manual control of the environmental generators." "That would be suicide," Kumar protested. "The feedback alone would give us one shot at something they haven't seen before." Rodriguez's voice carried the weight of someone who had made this kind of choice before. Sometimes survival means sacrifice. A massive impact rocked the ship. "Hull breach on Deck 5. Someone shouted. Crystalline growth spreading through science labs. "Major," Patel's voice cut through the chaos. "Whatever you're planning, do it fast." Rodriguez moved to the environmental control station. "Kumar, remember those simulations we ran of Earth's Hadean period, when the planet was young and wild?" The physicist's eyes widened. "The models were unstable. We couldn't even predict." "Exactly. Pure chaos. No patterns to adapt to." Rodriguez began entering commands. "Captain, I'll need to take a shuttle. Have to get close enough to seed the initial reaction." "Marcus, no." Sarah stepped forward. "The radiation levels alone would give the evacuation ships time to escape." He smiled, the expression gentle despite the circumstances. Earth taught us about sacrifice too, remember? The few for the many. Patel studied her old friend for a long moment, then nodded. Do it, Kumar. Give him everything he needs. Zara warned the Alliance ships to pull back to safe distance. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Rodriguez prepared a shuttle while Kumar transferred the necessary protocols. Sarah insisted on modifying an environment suit, trying to give him a few extra minutes of protection against what was coming. The parasites are breaching the final defense line, Zara reported. Crystalline growth detected on multiple Alliance ships. Rodriguez finished his preparations and turned to face them. It's been an honor, he said simply. Remember, humanity's greatest strength isn't our ability to survive. It's our willingness to die for something greater than ourselves. The shuttle bay doors opened, and Rodriguez's small craft shot into space. They watched on sensors as he piloted directly toward the densest concentration of void parasites. Environmental generators at maximum power, Kumar reported. Containment fields deliberately weakened. By all the laws of physics, he's creating a miniature version of Earth's birth environment. The sensors screamed as space itself seemed to twist. Temperature differentials that shouldn't be possible rippled outward. Radiation levels spiked beyond measurement. Gravity waves distorted light itself. The void parasites reacted immediately, their crystalline forms fragmenting as they encountered conditions that defied adaptation. They tried to retreat, to find stable zones, but Rodriguez's shuttle darted between them, seeding chaos in patterns too random to predict or counter. His life signs are failing, Sarah whispered, watching the bioratings. The suit can't handle. Message from the shuttle. Zara interrupted. Tell them we gave them hell. A final explosion of impossible physics erupted from Rodriguez's position. When their sensors cleared, a massive sphere of churning environmental chaos filled the space where the parasites had been. Of the shuttle, there was no sign. My God, Kumar breathed. He created a self-sustaining reaction. The chaos will feed itself, maintain the random patterns, a permanent barrier of pure Deathworld conditions. The bridge crew stood in silence, watching the sensors confirm what their eyes could barely accept. The void parasites were retreating, unable to approach the sphere of environmental hellfire that Rodriguez had sacrificed himself to create. The evacuation ships are clear, Patel reported, her voice thick with emotion. Colony saved. Defense line holding. Sarah felt Zora's hand on her shoulder. The alien commander's scales showed colors of both victory and mourning. Your people, you truly would die to protect others. It's what makes a Deathworld survivable, Sarah answered softly. You learn early that sometimes the only way to live is to be willing to die for something worthwhile. The Alliance will remember this, Zora promised. We feared you because you came from a world of death. Now we understand that such a world also teaches the true value of life. Patel straightened in her chair. Kumar, analyze everything. I want to know exactly what Rodriguez did. Next time. She paused, collecting herself. Next time we'll find a way to create the same effect without losing anyone. The parasites will adapt eventually, Kumar warned. Find ways around even this. Then we'll adapt too, Sarah said firmly. That's the real lesson of Earth. Life finds a way, not just to survive, but to thrive. To take the very things that should kill us and turn them into tools for survival. As the Prometheus set course to help other threatened systems, her crew carried a new weight of knowledge. They had found a way to fight the void parasites, but the price had been high. Yet in that price was also hope, proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to survive a Deathworld, but their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect others from experiencing that same harshness. The war was far from over, but something had changed. The Alliance now looked at their human allies with new understanding. These children of a harsh world had shown them that true strength wasn't about avoiding death, it was about choosing what to die for. A new dawn. 3 months after Rodriguez's sacrifice, the Meridian Alliance's Grand Council chamber looked very different. Environmental barriers between species had been minimized, with most representatives now tolerating shared atmospheric conditions that would have terrified them before. Captain Maya Patil noticed this immediately as she entered alongside Sarah Chen and Dr. Kumar. "They're adapting," she whispered, a sad smile touching her lips. Marcus would have appreciated the irony. The chamber was packed with representatives from every Alliance species, plus a delegation from Earth. At the center, Commander Zora Vex stood before a holographic display showing the current state of the war against the void parasites. "The Rodriguez barriers have held," Zara announced, her scales shimmering with pride as she used the official name for the environmental chaos zones. "The parasites have made 17 attempts to breach them. Each attempt has failed, and each failure has cost them significant numbers." The display shifted to show a map of Alliance space. Brilliant points of light marked the locations of the barriers, creating a network of defensive positions. "More importantly, we've learned from these attempts." Dr. Kumar, the physicist, stepped forward, still uncomfortable with public speaking, but driven by purpose. "The parasites are showing signs of population stress. Each failed adaptation attempt fragments their group cohesion. They're starting to break into smaller, less effective units. Just like an invasive species on Earth when it encounters too many environmental pressures at once," Sarah added. "They're burning through their adaptation energy trying to find ways around our defenses." First speaker Nimva's mechanical form hummed thoughtfully. "Yet you say this is not enough. That we must take an even greater risk." "The barriers are a defensive strategy," Paddle explained. "They protect our systems, but the parasites are still out there, still a threat. To end this permanently, we need to take the fight to them." The chamber erupted in concerned whispers. Taking the offensive went against centuries of Alliance philosophy. But there was less fear in the reactions now, more thoughtful consideration. "Show them," Zora encouraged. Sarah activated her own display, showing a new modification to the Alliance flagship. "We've learned that the parasites are connected through quantum-level communications. They share adaptation information, coordinate their attacks. But that connection has a weakness. Their need for stability," Kumar continued. "The quantum network requires relatively calm space-time conditions to function. By studying the Rodriguez barriers, we found a way to disrupt those conditions in a controlled manner. You propose to create chaos throughout their entire network." High Counselor Vreen's gelatinous form rippled with concern. "The energy requirements alone will be met by the combined power of the Alliance fleet," Paddle said firmly. "But we'll need every ship, every species working together. The parasites aren't the only ones who can coordinate on a quantum level." The display showed the planned formation. Alliance ships arranged in a precise pattern, each contributing to a cascading wave of environmental disruption that would spread through the parasites' quantum network. "There's a cost," Sarah admitted. "The disruption will permanently alter significant portions of space. Some systems will become permanently unstable, more like our Deathworld conditions." "And you believe we should accept this?" asked Representative Lathnar. "Change the very nature of our space." "The universe is already changing," Zara answered before the humans could. Her scales shifted to deep copper, the color of absolute conviction. "We thought stability meant safety, but it made us vulnerable. The humans showed us that true survival means embracing change, even when it terrifies us." She gestured to the environmental barriers that once separated the Council species. "Look at us now, breathing each other's air, tolerating conditions we once thought impossible. We're stronger for it, more adaptable." "The parasites evolved in the calmest parts of space," Sarah added. "They never learned to handle real competition, real change. That's why they fear Deathworlds, not because we're stronger, but because we understand something they don't. That life itself requires chaos," Kumar said quietly. "Earth taught us that every living thing is shaped by the forces that try to destroy it. The parasites never learned this lesson. That's why they'll lose." Patel stepped forward. "We're not asking you to become like us. We're asking you to understand what my friend Marcus died to teach us, that sometimes protecting life means being willing to change everything about how we live. The council chamber fell silent as the Alliance representatives considered this. Finally, first speaker Nimva rose. 3 cycles ago, we feared the Deathworlders. We thought their harsh world had made them dangerous. The ancient being's mechanical shell hummed with something like laughter. We were right. They are dangerous, but not in the way we feared. They are dangerous because they make us question our most fundamental beliefs about how life should work. The speaker turned to face the assembled representatives. The council will vote. Do we accept this plan? Do we embrace chaos to create a new kind of order? One by one, the votes came in. This time, there was no fear in the decision. The Alliance had learned from their human allies that strength came in many forms, and sometimes the most important survival trait was the willingness to change. The vote was unanimous. As the combined fleet assembled for the final battle, Sarah stood with Zara on the Prometheus's observation deck. They watched Alliance ships moving into formation, their crews working together regardless of environmental preferences. You know, Zara said thoughtfully, when I first suggested seeking help from Earth, I thought we needed your strength, your ability to survive harsh conditions. But that's not what you really needed, was it? Sarah smiled. No, we needed your perspective, your understanding that life isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about learning from it, growing stronger because of it. Zora's scales shifted to a new color, one Sarah had never seen before. The parasites tried to enforce their version of order on the galaxy. Instead, they taught us to embrace a little chaos. The fleet moved into position. Across thousands of ships, crews of all species worked together, using technology that blended Alliance precision with human adaptability. They were about to change the nature of space itself, make parts of the galaxy more like the death world that had shaped humanity. But they weren't afraid anymore. Earth's children had taught them that the most important lesson of evolution wasn't survival of the fittest, but the ability to change, to adapt, to turn hostile environments into cradles of new possibility. As the final countdown began, Sarah thought of Rodriguez and all the others throughout human history who had sacrificed everything to protect others. They had never been defined by their ability to survive a harsh world. They had been defined by their choice to use that strength to help others survive too. The void parasites had evolved in the gentlest parts of space, and that had been their ultimate weakness. They never understood that true strength comes not from avoiding chaos, but from dancing with it, learning from it, and sometimes, when necessary, creating it yourself. The signal was given. The fleet engaged. And in the chaos that followed, a new kind of order was born, one that recognized that the harshest environments often created the strongest bonds between those who faced them together. The age of comfortable stability was over. The age of adaptive cooperation had begun. And somewhere, on a harsh little death world called Earth, life continued to evolve, teaching its children lessons that would reshape the galaxy.